This is my ranking of games like Baldur's Gate 3 that I've played based purely on my personal experience. Each one is placed from masterpiece down to trash, depending on how deep the role-playing systems are, how meaningful the choices and consequences feel, and how well the world reacts to your decisions. Let's get straight into the list. Divinity Original Sin 2 starts off by giving me a lot of freedom, and I quickly realized I could approach things in many different ways. I could talk, fight, sneak, or even use the environment to deal with problems in creative ways. Some choices led to unexpected outcomes, and sometimes I even missed content because of decisions I made earlier. The companions also stood out since they have their own goals, and that can create tension inside the party. Combat feels slow but very thoughtful, where positioning and using elements like fire or poison really matters. I kept finding small secrets and side moments just by exploring carefully instead of following markers. It always felt like the game trusted me to figure things out on my own. This one easily lands in the masterpiece tier. Shadowrun Trilogy puts me in a cyberpunk world mixed with fantasy, and that blend works better than I expected. I'm dealing with hackers, magic users, and street-level problems at the same time, which keeps things fresh. The games are very dialogue-heavy, so I spend a lot of time reading and making choices that shape how situations play out. Maps are more linear than most CRPGs, but that actually keeps things focused without wasting time. Combat is turn-based and feels similar to XCOM, where positioning and smart ability use really matter. Each entry improves on the last, especially with stronger writing and deeper systems in Dragonfall and Hong Kong. It may not offer huge freedom, but it delivers solid storytelling and tight gameplay. This one finds its place in the great tier. UnderRail takes place in a harsh underground world where survival is the main focus, and it doesn't go easy on me at all. I had to think carefully about every fight because even small mistakes could get me killed quickly. The combat is turn-based and very tactical, where traps, grenades, and smart positioning can decide the outcome. Building my character also matters a lot, since the wrong skills can make later parts of the game much harder. Exploration feels tense and rewarding, with hidden paths, useful loot, and different ways to approach situations. There isn't a strong focus on story or characters, but the atmosphere and world design carry the experience well. It feels like a true old-school CRPG that expects patience and planning. This one secures its place in the excellent tier. Expeditions Rome takes me through a detailed Roman setting where I'm not just fighting battles, but also dealing with politics, choices, and leadership decisions. I liked how the game mixes large-scale army management with smaller tactical fights, and those turn-based battles are the strongest part. Positioning units, combining abilities, and planning ahead really matter, especially in longer multi-stage encounters. The story also stands out with well-written characters and choices that don't have clear right or wrong answers. At the same time, some systems feel a bit confusing, especially the larger army combat where outcomes aren't always clear. There's a lot going on, and it can feel heavy at times, but when everything clicks, it delivers a solid experience with depth and variety. This one finds its way into the great tier. The Age of Decadence gave me a world where choices matter a lot, and I had to think carefully before doing anything. I could solve situations through dialogue, skills, or combat, but not every path works for every character build. I liked how different starting backgrounds completely change how the game begins and what options I get later. Decisions can close off quests or open new ones, which makes every playthrough feel different. Combat is there, but it isn't always the best option, and sometimes avoiding fights is the smarter move. At times, the difficulty feels uneven, especially when fights rely more on stats than tactics. Even with that, the strong focus on role-playing and meaningful choices makes it stand out as a unique experience. This one lands cleanly in the excellent tier. Dragon Age Origins builds a deep fantasy world where my choices shape not just the story, but also how characters react to me. I started with a unique origin that actually changed how people treated me later, which made the journey feel personal from the beginning. The story is long and detailed, with major decisions that can completely change outcomes or even remove characters from the game. Combat mixes real-time action with pause-based tactics, so I could plan things carefully when needed. There are moments where combat feels easier than expected, but the strength of the world, writing, and role-playing depth carries everything forward. This one stands at the very top in the masterpiece tier. Atom RPG feels very close to classic Fallout-style games, and I noticed that right away in how everything is structured. I explored a large, post-apocalyptic world, taking on quests that could often be solved through combat or dialogue depending on my build. The setting stands out with its Soviet-style tone, which adds a different flavor compared to most games in this genre. I like the mix of exploration, story quests, and turn-based combat, even though none of it feels very new. Character building is flexible, but some choices can hurt progress later if not planned well. The writing has its moments, but characters and story don't always stay memorable. It does a lot of things well without really pushing beyond expectations, which keeps it solid but not exceptional. This one lands in the good tier. Wasteland 3 puts me in a frozen, post-apocalyptic world where every decision carries weight, and I kept seeing consequences show up much later in the story. I had to manage a full squad, making sure different skills were covered so I could handle both combat and dialogue situations. The turn-based combat feels satisfying, especially with how positioning, cover, and environmental tools like explosives or turrets come into play. I also liked how certain skills let me avoid fights or gain an advantage before they even start. The writing mixes dark humor with serious moments, which keeps things interesting throughout the long campaign. Some interface issues and rough edges show up, but they don't take away much from the core experience. This one earns its place in the excellent tier. Planescape Torment takes me into a strange and deeply unique world where the focus is more on story and dialogue than combat. I spent most of my time talking to characters, uncovering memories, and making choices that shape who I become. The writing stands out a lot with conversations that feel more like reading a detailed book than playing a typical RPG. I liked how my actions define alignment instead of picking it at the start, which makes every decision matter more. Combat is there, but it clearly isn't the main strength, and I often found better outcomes through dialogue or smart choices. The setting itself feels different from anything else, with ideas about identity and belief driving the experience. This one easily claims its spot in the masterpiece tier. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is massive in scale, and I could feel that in both the story and the systems right away. I'm leading a crusade against a demon invasion, but at the same time shaping my character through deep choices and mythic paths that change abilities and story direction. The build variety is huge, with many classes and options that let me experiment a lot. Combat stands out because I can switch between real-time and turn-based, and the turn-based mode makes every decision more meaningful. Companions also feel important, with strong personalities and reactions that can even lead to conflicts or removals from the party. Some parts, like army management, feel weaker, but the depth and replay value carry everything. This one rises straight into the masterpiece tier. Disco Elysium puts me in the role of a broken detective trying to solve a murder while also figuring out who I even am. Instead of traditional combat, everything is handled through dialogue, choices, and skill checks, which makes every interaction feel important. I spent most of my time talking to people, exploring the world, and even debating with different parts of my own mind. The writing is easily the strongest part, with deep conversations that mix humor, politics, and personal struggles. I liked how my skills act like voices, guiding or pushing me in different directions during key moments. The world feels detailed and real, even without large areas to explore. It's a very different kind of RPG that focuses fully on storytelling and player choice. This one stands clearly in the masterpiece tier. Black Geyser Couriers of Darkness tries to follow classic CRPG design, and I could see that inspiration in its structure and systems right away. Character creation has a good amount of options, and the greed system adds an interesting twist that changes how the world reacts to me. I also like that quests can have multiple outcomes depending on choices, which gives some replay value. At the same time, companions feel underdeveloped, with limited interaction and shallow personal stories. Combat works, but it takes time to feel engaging, and early fights don't offer much challenge. There are also small rough edges and pacing issues, especially with frequent loading and some systems not fully explained. It has solid ideas, but execution doesn't always match them. This one falls into the mediocre tier. Tyranny puts me in a world where evil has already won, and instead of stopping it, I'm working within that system while making choices that shape how things unfold. I liked how decisions start affecting the world very early, with factions reacting differently based on what I do. The opening alone lets me define past events, which changes how areas and characters appear later. Dialogue plays a big role with a lot of depth in the writing and lore. Combat is real-time with pause, and it feels smooth, especially with combo abilities and a flexible spell system. I also noticed how skills improve through use, which adds a nice layer to character growth. Some parts feel less impactful later, but the strong focus on choice and replay value carries it well. This one claims a place in the excellent tier. Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader lets me play as a powerful figure instead of a nobody, and that change makes a big difference in how the story feels. I'm managing a crew, making decisions across a large sector, and dealing with factions that react to my actions in meaningful ways. The writing is strong, with quests and characters that stay interesting across a very long campaign. Combat is turn-based and quite deep, with a lot of tactical options and team combinations that reward planning. I also liked how support roles can be just as important as damage dealers. At the same time, the systems can feel complex, and understanding abilities takes effort. Bugs and rough edges show up too, which can break the flow at times. This one settles into the great tier. Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 build a deep fantasy world where I spend a lot of time reading, making choices, and understanding how everything connects. The writing stands out immediately, with detailed characters and stories that go far beyond the main quest. I liked how being a watcher lets me see into people's pasts, which adds a unique layer to dialogue and decisions. Combat is real-time with pause and can be very challenging, so I had to plan carefully instead of rushing fights. The second game expands everything with more systems, exploration at sea, and deeper character builds. Both games reward patience, especially if I take time to explore side stories and world details. It's a dense experience, but the depth and consistency carry it all the way through. This one belongs right at the top in the masterpiece tier. Encased takes place inside a mysterious dome, and I'm exploring a strange sci-fi world while trying to uncover what's really going on. The setting feels unique, and the story does a good job building that mystery through detailed writing and interesting encounters. I liked how flexible the character system is, since different builds can completely change dialogue and gameplay options. Sometimes I could solve situations in unexpected ways, which kept things fresh. At the same time, a lot of dialogue choices don't lead to meaningful outcomes and often circle back to the same result. Combat works fine with its turn-based system, but it doesn't stand out compared to the RPG side. Exploration can also feel uneven, with some areas feeling empty or not worth visiting. This one fits into the good tier. Solasta Crown of the Magister focuses heavily on combat and mechanics, and I noticed right away how closely it follows tabletop D and D rules. The turn-based combat feels clear and satisfying, with dice rolls, positioning, lighting, and terrain all playing an important role. I liked how verticality and line of sight actually matter, making fights more tactical than usual. Character creation also offers enough variety to try different party setups, and even though I create all characters myself, they still show personality through dialogue. The story is simple and mostly there to move me from one dungeon to another, and the structure is quite linear compared to other CRPGs. Some presentation issues and weaker side content show up, but the strong gameplay loop keeps things engaging. This one finds its place in the great tier. Torment Tides of Numenera focuses heavily on story and dialogue, and I spent most of my time reading and making choices instead of fighting. The world feels very strange and unique, filled with ideas that stand out from typical fantasy settings. I liked how conversations offer many options, and even my personality traits influence how situations play out. The tide system adds another layer, where my actions slowly shape how others react to me. Companions also bring interesting perspectives with their own unusual backgrounds and stories. Combat exists, but it feels less important and sometimes slows things down compared to the narrative. Even with that, the strong writing and creativity carry the experience throughout. This one earns its place in the excellent tier. Fallout 1 and 2 take me into a post-apocalyptic world that feels very different from typical fantasy RPGs, and that setting alone makes them stand out. I explored ruined cities, strange communities, and dangerous wastelands where every choice could change how people react to me. Character creation is very flexible, and I could build completely different playstyles that lead to unique outcomes. I liked how quests often have multiple solutions, letting me solve problems through combat, dialogue, or clever decisions. The world feels reactive, even if some systems show their age. Combat is turn-based and can be rough at times, especially early on, but the sense of progression makes it rewarding. Despite some outdated elements, the freedom and depth still hold strong today. This one clearly belongs in the masterpiece tier. That's my full lineup of CRPGs that capture that Baldur's Gate 3 style depth in different ways. Some reach the same level, while others fall short, but each one offers something worth experiencing depending on what you value most. Thanks for watching.